Time to talk about what I consider to be one of the best regiments of renown in the game, the Queen. Yes, I'm going to start talking about some more of the regiments of renown now, and this is one in particular that has always been a favorite of mine, although looks very terrifying in this jungle here. This is Gojira up against my Lizardmen. He's got some green skins, so let's get into the builds here as it's already started. Got Wolf Rider Archers on the green skins side, some Spider Riders, which are a great choice for this kind of jungly map here. The Queen herself also has Strider, and what makes her so strong, you might ask? Well, summons, which is arguably, next to healing, like the most competitive ability in the game, just as a general rule. Summons are amazing, and 5 summons of basically poison like hounds, more or less. They're not as fast as hounds, the spiders. They do have Strider and poison, so it is quite nice. 60-second cooldown, so in a long battle you can definitely use all 5. Some stone trolls as well, biggins, and yeah, we've got Wurzag for support, definitely one of the best support lords in the game as well, and a Net Goblin Shaman for some extra Winds of Magic, Vindictive Glare. As for my Lizardmen, Tehenowin going to be leading the way. He's already engaged here. 2 Cold One, these guys, Scarvets on Cold Ones, and some Horned Ones for Cavalry, so going for some Elite Cav. Horned Ones I find to be a decent answer for Stone Trolls if you can get good engagements. We've got some Javelin Skinks here, Saurus Warriors, along with the cohort of Sotek. And yeah, no dinos, which for the dinos is a bit of an odd thing, but here comes our terror. We've got a Feral Manticore here to start to deal with some of these periphery units. We got a decent engagement on those Wolf Rider Archers, but here comes the Queen getting in here. And with Wurzag in particular in support, she is a very, very scary monster. She's already a pretty scary monster. The greenskins generally have a lot of buffs to toss her way. 70 attack, baseline with poison, 304 weapon strength. I think she's poisoned a little bit right now, so that's a bit lower than it should be, but 14 bonus versus large, 224 AP with the poison, and of course she herself basically has a AoE poison with infinite ammo, more or less. How it doesn't do much damage, it does a little bit, but nice to just kind of have that ranged poison effect as well. But here comes the support I was talking about with the Bonewood Staff. Gojira is going to put a great timing proc with a big Here We Go in this blob fight. These Stone Trolls were struggling against the Scarvets, and I had just used my Stand Your Ground, and as soon as that dropped, this Here We Go pops, so great move by Goji. Definitely a long-time pillar of the community, good friend of mine. And yeah, the Horned Ones are going to be thrown in here to try and support. These other Horned Ones have been cycle charging these biggins and such over here. I got a pretty good engagement with these Stone Trolls. They're kind of surrounded by Skinks and Saurus. We got all our Javelin volleys off pretty clean into the biggins, which is just excellent value. Use my voice, guys. And yeah, this engagement, though, definitely not going great for me. Wah being popped after that Here We Go runs out, so it's basically a perpetual power spike. All this time, too, there's been Spiderling summons coming up. This might be, I think, the second one I want to say. But I'm going to pop my second Manticore summon as well. Tasteful double Chameleon Skink. Didn't want to go too far into the Chameleons. But you got to have a couple at least. But the Spiders are going to be a decent kind of counter for them. 22 charge bonus with 34 melee attack, as they did get a Bonewood Staff proc, interestingly enough. That's nice. I think Wurzag popped that Fist of Gork, yep, on the Arachnarok Queen. But I get an engagement with Tehenowin and the Manticore, and we managed to break the Queen. That is one downside of Arachnarok Spiders in general. That includes the Goblin Shaman on an Arachnarok Spider, who I've talked about before in my Lords series. They don't have the best leadership in the world. They can be routed like this, and if I can keep the Queen routed, I might be able to finish this off. Balance of power slightly in my favor here, but I've got these Chameleons kind of pressuring here. I'm going to leave them to try and support this fight. My Scarvets here, I need them to try and chase this Queen off, but I'm going to promptly forget about them. Tehenowin comes back here. He wants to go after Wurzag to try and finish him off, if I can get some more poison on him. And I want to say I eventually throw this Scarvet out here to try and chase down this Spider, but the Spider is going to be able to recover its leadership here, which is honestly a huge mistake by me. Yeah, see, I do issue the order there a little bit late as the Scarvet, as I kind of saw him come back from route there. Meanwhile, over here, this Scarvet is being tied down by this Night Goblin Shaman, which you might not think is much, but Night Goblin Shaman actually up to 76 attack. He's barely on the edge of this Here We Go proc here, and with the Bonewood Staff, that's honestly ridiculous. He does have poison attacks too, so he's honestly doing a number on this Saurus Scarvet there. He's losing decisively against a Night Goblin Shaman. Man, greenskins are just beautiful in their ability to punch upwards. Probably one of my favorite things about them, in particular about goblins. Wurzag, just insane support ability. That Here We Go on Wurzag in particular is a massive power spike. It's like something like 53 attack in an AoE, basically, and then everything else gets 13 melee attack, I want to say, is Bonewood Staff. But yeah, more Spiderlings. Someone's going to be pulled up here to go after the Javelins, and now I'm really feeling the pain as I try and go after, finish off the Queen here. A nice effigy to get to finish off Tehenowin as he was kind of kiting Wurzag into these Saurus Warriors with shields. And yeah, unfortunately, this Scarvet's probably going to get taken out. We'll see. It's a little bit of RNG. I'm going to try and pull him away, see if he can survive, but unfortunately he gets terrified. And the Spider's just kind of hanging in there barely long enough. They don't have the greatest leadership in the world, but they've definitely done a number here. Chameleon Skinks out of ammunition at this point, having to fight Spider Riders. This is honestly not a terrible engagement for them, but yeah. Arachnarok Queen going to try and finish her off. Another summon coming in, though, absolutely backbreaking here, even if she does get routed. Here we go, again active in this pocket, and Wurzag also has an insane amount of Winds of Magic with that Squiggly Beast. It's not quite as much as an Greater Arcane Conduit, but it's basically like a permanent Arcane Conduit, I want to say. I would have to check the numbers on it. It might not be quite that strong, but it is a good amount of Winds of Magic. He's definitely probably top 10 caster, I want to say, just in terms of Winds of Magic. Yeah, I think, does he have Arcane Conduit as well? I don't believe so. I don't remember. Anyway, this is more about the Queen, and another Wa being popped here. Goji with the great timing on these buffs, kind of using them one after the other. It is absolute obscene overkill to stack them, as we've seen. I mean, the Arachnarok Queen goes up to 122 melee attack with Here We Go, 106 with Wa, so, I mean, there are diminishing returns on melee attack. If you go too high above your opponent's melee defense, like, there's a maximum hit chance of 90%, right? So, if you are, let's see, like, yeah, 55 melee attack, I want to say-ish. Math is not my strong suit, as you guys may be able to tell. But if you're a certain amount, you know, over your opponent's melee defense in terms of melee attack, it's really, you know, kind of wasted. That's why using those buffs one after the other, definitely a great skill play by Goji here. My army teetering on army losses here. If I can maybe finish off Wurzag with these Saurus, might be able to pull things back, but all these Wolf Riders being able to kind of support the Stone Trolls is great, and my forces are just spread out here. Saurus Warriors, these ones have a bit more stopping power left, but there's more Stone Trolls coming back through the woods. Was not able to really chase them off effectively. So it'll be a win for the Greenskins, and the Queen playing a huge part in that. She's long gone, I think, but her summons are still here. And that in and of itself is enough. Those summons are just awesome. And I want to say she's the only ROR to have summons as a special ability, which does make her pretty unique. And, I mean, outside of, like, having regeneration, for example, or terror, even then, those two, I would say, are arguably weaker. In terms of, like, pure Regiment of Renown abilities, I'd really have to sit down and look through which specific ones I think might be better, like, as a, you know, as an ROR bonus. The Queen might be the best, just because summons are so good, and especially because Greenskins don't have any other way of getting summons, and it's a very good summon as well. A good number of them, you know, a great utility unit. Like I said, not the best leadership on those spider hatchlings, spiderlings, but they are fantastic for their poison, and they're, you know, especially with like a big map-wide timing buff like Bonewood Staff or Wa, they get a pretty decent amount of attack and charge and punch upwards very well, like I said before. So I'm going to use that cheeky little refuse to die on those Court of Sotek. They promptly get finished off after it ends, but there you go. Fun game, definitely a great game to Goji. It was a fun one for sure. And my build, I actually was pretty, you know, oftentimes I kind of put together these experimental builds, not necessarily expecting them to work out great. This one did okay. Definitely think could be better on some fronts, but yeah, in terms of Wurzag himself, he got a pretty decent amount of damage, all things considered, and not to mention his buffs made, you know, like the Queen, for example, did pay for herself, again, just for herself, and the summons on top of that. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the damage value from summons, which is something I hope that CA can figure out a way to represent eventually. That would be a really nice kind of evaluation tool. Right now, and that includes Tehenowin as well, I guess, right, for his Manticores. He didn't really do all that much himself. Manticores may have done a little bit more, but still, for what you pay for Tehennowin, he is pretty expensive. But Queen definitely paid for herself. Stone Troll's also doing pretty decent, although this one, despite getting 111 kills, did not pay for itself. And yeah, the Horned ones, one of them almost paid for itself. I didn't manage them super well. But credit to Goji there for that beautiful timing on those buffs and everything. Yeah, Wolf Rider Archer is very cost effective as well. Spider Rider is also doing pretty decent. 8 Peak Loons, always a good choice in literally every single build. And Biggins, one of them paid for themselves, one of them did not. On my side, the Skink Jav's actually pretty cost effective overall. Likewise, Cohort of Sotek just about paid for themselves. Saurus Warrior's also doing pretty decent. Like, it was pretty close, all things considered. It was really my single entities that let me down at the end of the day. These guys did not pay for themselves. I don't think Tehennowin, even with the Manticore summons, probably didn't. The Chameleon Skinks absolutely did. They're, like I said, just a ridiculously good unit, and you should only bring a tasteful number of them, unless it's like a big tournament game. In that case, go crazy. Anyway, yeah, in terms of RORs, like, the snares are pretty good too, right? Like, the Eye of Morslib is one that I would probably rank in the top 5 as well, because a hard snare is an ability that, like a summon, is very competitive. This guy only has 3 charges of this, though. Yeah, when I just kind of think through other RORs, whoops, in other rosters, like, Companions of Quenelle are ridiculously good, but they are pretty expensive now. They were underpriced before, but 10 bonus versus large, just like awesome stats. Mean to Psychology, Blessing of the Ladies, they have physical resistance, fire resistance, 2 for some reason, which is random. Yeah, they're just kind of a great unit overall, but they are pretty expensive. They don't have necessarily a great, like, unique ability. I mean, I guess anti-large is nice, but I wouldn't consider it, like, among the most competitive, right? Same thing, like, this Slaaneish's Harvesters are one that, because they're spell loadout, and I guess that's really what it comes down to, is Regiments of Renown with, like, activatable abilities I tend to favor, or something like, for example, the Sternsmen, if they get several bonuses, right? The Sternsmen, actually, if you compare them to regular Graveguard, I mean, you get the rank 9 stats for a decent price. If I double check here, yeah, it is a slight discount. And for that, you get both Regeneration and Expert Charge Defense, both of which are incredibly strong abilities. Expert Charge Defense in particular now, more than ever, is probably one of the best kind of traits you can have in a game. So those two, you know, kind of together are very good. Another one back on the Beastmen that maybe a little bit underused now, mostly because of the price. Butchers of Kalkengard, I mean, only 45 armor is not great. Compare that to base Minotaurs, it's, you know, 10 better. The shielded ones as well, getting a missile block chance is nice. Regeneration and Terror, it's like 2 very competitive abilities, right? But even still, I mean, comparing them to the Queen, I just think the Queen is maybe the best, just in terms of, like, you know, extra ability, best ROR in the game. I mean, the Rogue Idol having a ranged attack is cool, don't get me wrong. Rogue Idols are not amazing to begin with, though, which is why I'm not super high on them. High Elves, most of their RORs are just, like, kind of too expensive to take, given the way the roster is structured. A couple of them are kind of decent, and, like, Talons of Torquelada, having that flammable is a strong synergy ability, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't compare to something like Summons, right? Norska's Regiment of Renown Mammoth here, the Soul Crusher, having damage resistance on active, you know, 22 seconds isn't a long time. 90-second cooldown's also a pretty long cooldown for an ability like that. Granted, it does have unlimited uses, but this guy's also quite expensive. I guess barely a little bit more expensive than the Queen, but I don't know. I guess really when it comes down to it, I could look through literally every single faction, but I'm going to just stop here and say that in terms of abilities, the Queen is the best. So we'll leave it at that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.